Hi, welcome to the Get Ready with God podcast. Get Ready with God podcast. I'm getting sloppy there. I'm your host, Julie Taylor. What is the intro to this podcast? Okay, I'm sorry. Let's go again. Hi, welcome to the Get Ready with God podcast. My name is Julie Taylor, and I am your host, and I am not God. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm not even a scriptorian. I'm literally just a girl sitting in front of a microphone being God is real. The Get Ready with God podcast is the daily devotional podcast to help you see divinity in every day. I don't know if I did that right, but we're going to stick with that one. Okay, here we are. We're going to talk today about what it feels like when you're a constant disappointment to people. It's going to keep things nice and light. Here's the thing, though. I think one of the reasons that faith conversations get so heavy and triggering for people is one, it threatens people's identities. And two, it's just tied to so many more things. And so often when you are questioning your faith or shifting your religion or all of these things, that's heavy alone. We talked about that yesterday. Like having that foundation shook is terrifying. But then you have this added stuff of how is it going to affect my life? How is it going to affect my social circles? How is it going to affect my marriage? How is it going to affect my parents? How is it going to affect my children? Like there's a lot more that plays into this, specifically if you've been in like a religion that is very like consuming and high demand, I think they label it. And this is a very real hard thing that people are carrying. And I like to talk about it from both sides since I've been on both sides, but I want to talk about it even like zoomed out more. There's a gift and a curse that comes from never quite being who people wish you were. And that sounds so dramatic, okay? But I'd like to preface this with saying I have a very good family and they all love me, okay? So I'm not like coming for them. But you pick up from a very young age when you just aren't quite the way that people wish you were. Like maybe you're too loud, or maybe you're annoying, or maybe you're rebellious, or whatever. And I'm one of those people, okay? And I'm also like hypersensitive to all of the social cues around me and exactly how I'm being perceived and what people think of me. So it's pretty like clear to me when people don't like me or when I'm not like fitting in or like it's not lost on me. And it always has been from like a very little age. I've like been very hypersensitive to I say this, people react this way, right? And I'm not trying to paint this picture of like some sob story. I've had this whole terrible life of being bullied my whole life. Like that's not what I'm saying. But I did learn from a very young age what it feels like to not really be what everyone wishes you were, both in my own home and at school and at church and in basically everything that I've ever done. And I know like the cultural narratives now are like be yourself and it doesn't matter and screw them, but like it does matter and you do feel it and I don't really ever want to live in a way that's just like F you, I'm going to be who I want to be. I like to be respectful of other people and I think this is one of the reasons that like mixed faith marriage gets so complicated is if you like there is a little bit of like a contract and understanding when you get married of like we're the same now and this is the life we want to live and this is the family we want to have and this is how we want to do it. And then when one person bails on that, I understand why it's complicated. I have walked that path and it is painful and it is complicated and honestly continues to be. But I've just had a lot of experiences where I've had to navigate not being what people wish that I was. And the gift that has come out of this is I've had a lot of practice. I've had a lifetime of practice of turning to other things to find my worth. And that was a rough road at the beginning, okay? Because when you go seeking your worth in some dangerous places, that can take you down a path. But I've had the gift of what it feels like to form a personal relationship with divinity and to get my guidance and my confirmation and my worth and my value from that source rather than all of these other sources. And I think that is the most pure source. I think that is the most loving source. And I think that is the most clear source, right? And so, we talked about Monday of this week on outsourcing your intuition. And I think that this is a similar conversation in that when you are rejected by and disappointing to the people that you love most, it teaches you to turn to other sources. And I would beg you to turn to divinity instead of away from it. If you turn to the divine to be guided through and to understand your worth, it's really, really powerful. And so if you're experiencing this pain, this fear or this pain, maybe you haven't walked through this yet, but you've been avoiding it, or you're coming out on the other side, I want to invite you to turn to the divine to get through it and to also remember to rely on that source. And I think for me, what's the most complicated, I made it a little bit more honest this year on the podcast, apparently, But not that I've been dishonest before, but just saying more stuff out loud, I guess. But I think one of the most complicated, scary, hard, painful things for me now is that sometimes that source that I feel genuinely connected to and I look to as my guiding force in my life conflicts with the things that people want me to believe and to know. And so then that's the heaviest dissonance. And even though I'm so grateful that I have this source that consistently reminds me of my worth and my value and that I'm okay and that I'm loved by a divine power, that doesn't take away the pain of what it feels like to consistently disappoint and to consistently be rejected. And it's a lonely path. This is a lonely path. And so I know I sell it of like, hey, this is great, but I don't want to be dismissive that this is also really, really hard and lonely sometimes to exist in this space. But I beg you to keep turning to the divine for the validation and the strength to get through. And every once in a while, you are gifted some people who see you for who you are and love you for that, and hold on to that. Because you are lovable, and you're not hard to love, and you are okay, and you are a child of God, divinely created to be exactly how you are. And I know it doesn't always feel that way when you're walking through spaces of rejection and confusion and hurt. So the pep talk for the day is turn to divinity for your worth, your value, and your guidance. Cling to it and try to keep believing that you're easy to love. God doesn't find it hard to love you. God doesn't find it hard to understand you. And God doesn't find it hard to accept you. Hang on. Hold on. Love you. Bye.